Okay, so hopefully this works this time. It's like the fifth time I've done this. So I'm probably going to stop after each story because it records for 7 minutes, it says on my timer, but it does not actually record for 7 minutes on the actual thing itself. So this is my final project. Sorry, the first slide is not appealing, but I was a little nervous doing this. That's why I sent you my stories at first to see if I was in the right direction, because I have a long history of developing stories, and I've used other people's words in my stories. For example, we had this game in high school where you pick sticks and you got a word or a phrase and you incorporate that into your story. There's nothing like this where I was constrained to just using other people's words. So it was challenging to me, but very interesting because it felt it allowed me to grow as a writer and expand my knowledge when it comes to using what we learned in class. So that being said, here is my first one. As you can see, I use colored pencils and crayons to black out the words I was not using, giving the effect that the words don't come from another source but are by themselves. Because of the print of the words from the article, the words are still a tad visible, but not enough to take away from what is being said. This is why I chose to do it, colored pencils and crayons, rather than use an online source and it completely takes away the words. So we're going to stop right there. Okay, so hopefully it catches everything. But the first story reads, "Don't fall in love. It doesn't go so well. It's obvious." Now, before I continue, I just want to say these stories go together to an extent, what they have the same type of theme, with love being fueled through them. Some of them are not directly about love with the words they're put together, but they all have a silver lining underneath them that have love stream through it. This is also depicted when it comes to the images that are on each page. The first page is the broken heart drawn within the words, symbolizing what is going on with the story itself. Love is a complicated subject. I think everyone can relate to that in some shape or form. I'm using in the first one as a form of visual language because without reading the story, they can already envision that it will be about heartbreak. The breaking of the heart symbolizes many things that are both obvious and set underneath the surface. This is an example of reader-user aspect in that the reader interprets what is going on with the story. It is vague in that it allows the reader to think of their own situation when they're in love. Stop. Here we are again. The second story reads, "Already bruised, living alone, he's addicted to her," and hers in quotes. The story is along the same lines as the first one with the love and the reader-user aspect. Some may interpret the bruised part as physically being bruised in a relationship, while others may think of it as a mental aspect. Again, this can allow for people to think of the situation they were in that resembles this picture and this story. It also has a material metaphor that is being used, and that the her in the story is an object that is being used to interpret the story itself. It allows for many different ideas to flow through it. The picture drawn in the story is this is what I tried to draw. I drew this first in the back of the paper, and then I had to make it bigger, obviously, to fit the page. So here's a closer up version of it. This is depicted. There's a picture of an arm injecting another arm or hand with her. This is depicted as the needle is colored pink, the universal color for females. It is playing at the idea of addiction with drugs that are injected via needle. This is an example of visual language as well as visual narrative. This is the visual language example because of the color pink that is representing a female and the color red on the tongue that is used to show that what is drawn as a tongue, because if I didn't do that, there's probably no other way that the person looking at this would be able to tell. So I apologize for having to do it this way, but I need for all of these to be able to hear me while I'm doing this. So this is why I'm doing it this way. The third story reads, "James the Romantic proves to be just software that doesn't fall in love. The story is my favorite, and the irony of it is unlike any other. He is software that is programmed to be romantic, but somehow doesn't fall in love. Hopefully you see the irony too, else it doesn't make any sense. In a way, this is interiorized subjectivity, which can be defined as the sense of having an identity that resides inside oneself. The identity of James is romantic, but his actual identity is not like that. He is the opposite, and it makes for more interpretation that the reader must wonder and try to figure out. Software can be many things that are not just software that programs computers and such, but literal meanings of software. However, the picture that I chose to draw, this particular story was a computer monitor with a mouse and keyboard. Not only it represents software, but to be quite honest, it was something that I knew I could draw. Well, I guess you can be the judge of that. With the drawing of the computer symbolizes James, almost in a way of the film Her that we watched with Samantha being a computer. This is known as distributed cognition, otherwise known as a system that takes place between multiple entities such as computers and humans. So you can interpret that way in the same way that Samantha was a software that fell in love with the main character that I am blanking on right now. The classes, I can't remember his name. Or you can interpret something else. In the sense it could look like being software that we as humans are programmed to be used throughout our lives. We are told to love and find the one that is for us, even if it means just finding someone that will fill the void of us being lonely. So you can go the her route, or you can go the human route, and that we are told to find someone to grow old with and fall in love with, because that's what us humans do, or we can think of it as the her way. The fourth story reads, a story of the depressed and lonely who craves her behavior, her mood, because she offers infinitely responsive companionship. The picture that I drew for this was a blue heart. I drew this blue heart because I felt a lot for both of the parts of the story to be told. The first part reads that it is the story of the depressed and lonely, with the color blue being universally known as a sad color. The second part of the story being about him craving this unknown female character, and this is where the heart comes in. He wants the companionship that she brings. So I drew the heart because the heart represents the companionship that she brings, and the blue inside of it represents him, the depressed and lonely. The fifth story reads, jealousy reminds me of a promiscuous chump. I'm not going to lie to you, I was really unsure of where the story was really going, but I really couldn't find any other words that would make the story that was quite like the others, and that would fit the theme that I had running through all of these. The reasoning behind it goes along with the love aspects a little bit that have been in all of these. Jealousy is something that inadvertently ruins relationships and makes a person that is jealous look like a chump. With that being said, the picture that I drew is a little less than the others, simply because I was unsure about the story itself, and it's supposed to be a person with their arms crossed and a frown. It's showing them being jealous and then sad because they lost the person due to their own jealousy. The sixth and final story reads, people aren't spending enough time with people. It's appealing. It's hard to know what their specimens are angelic fantasies. Now, this one of the pictures is one of the better ones, I think, as it's two people facing away from each other with a phone in between them saying, hello, slaves. People aren't spending enough time with people. It's a simple thing to read, but there's deeper meaning behind it. Angelic fantasies are created by our phones, as we are more inclined to talk to people over the phone or over text rather than face-to-face interactions. The picture depicts two people being back-to-back, but in a perfect world, they are texting each other and have phones in their hands. I couldn't fit that in the picture itself, but that's what the intended version of it is supposed to be. So technology obviously is a large part of our lives. Obviously, as I'm doing this for an online class to a teacher I've never met, only I've seen over the camera. And that is what this is playing on. Our phones we are slaves to our phones. So the interactions that people used to have in older times are no longer there. We're no longer getting this face-to-face interactions that we usually have with people. We are getting to know them over texting and over looking at their Instagram or stuff like that. So it's hard to know whether specimens are angelic fantasies or they're actually real life people, which is weird to say, but that is what is interpreted in this.